Detail Culture. Este es Detail Culture. Luis Castro, una vez más con ustedes.
Tú sabes que Detail Culture no se queda atrás.
The hating part, that I'm feeding off your experience, and this is what I want to share.
Yeah.
So let's get that theme.
It's a part of the industry that I've been involved at the highest level of every aspect of the automotive industry. I've owned dealerships, I've owned a body shop, I've owned mechanical shops, I've owned detail shops, X-COTE shops, lots of those. And the professionalism, or I should say the lack of professionalism in the detail industry, it's such a contrast from the rest of the automotive industry. You will never see groups of dealers in a city hating on each other. In fact, we all go to the auction and we all talk and we bid each we bid each other against cars, and he wins and I win, but we don't hate each other. And if I don't have a Honda, I'll send that customer to them, and we all work, as a group, and we all benefit from it. And in automotive repair, if I don't specialize in transmissions, I'm going to send it to a place that specializes in transmissions. And if I specialize in troubleshooting electronics, then they're going to send that to me, and we all coexist. But you just don't see that level of unprofessionalism, hating online and hating on products and people, and it's just there's such a contrast, because I come from that background, I see it. And the funny thing is too, that in the detailing industry, they have the biggest egos. And out of all of the aspects of, the different segments of the automotive, it's the least profitable as a whole. So there are a lot of companies that make really good money, and they're good at what they do. But there's more that don't than any other industry, but they have the biggest egos. And what's interesting is when you look at, and I don't really get into commenting on posts and groups online. I stay off of that. I read it a little bit, but I completely stay off of it, because you're arguing with idiots. And, you're just opening it doesn't matter what you say, how much logic it has. If that person is just there to be a troll and hate, you're never going to change their mind. That's why they're there. They're not there to get along with you. And it's surprising that you see so much of this, and it's such a waste of time. It's such a waste of energy. But, in the industry, if you've been in the industry a while, you know who makes money and who doesn't. You know the guys that make the money. Maybe you don't know the guys that don't, but you know who really makes good money in the industry. And those are the guys that are the quietest. Those are the guys you never see hating people and products and online. You know why? Because it doesn't matter when you're making money. They are irrelevant. And also, you're too busy making money to take time to hate on. It's such a waste of energy. So when I see someone and they're just, it doesn't have to be my product, it's any product or any ceramic or any product there is, or another installer that, look at this work this guy put out, and this customer, had to come to me, and so what? That was a windfall. You should phone that guy and thank him, because he screwed it up and now you got the job. Why would you be angry at that guy? He just gave you business. So it's surprising, though, how much of that exists in the industry. And what these people don't understand is this isn't productive for business. For you to behave like that and go on like it doesn't matter if it's behind the scenes and it's not in front of your customers. It's not constructive to your business. It's not constructive to your life. Just stay in your lane, do the best job you can, and forget about everybody else. I don't care what anybody else is doing. I don't care if they do a bad job. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just focused on what I do. And when I do that, guess what? There's more energy that goes into my work.
I'm glad to meet someone with the mentality that I'm trying to plant in my colleagues and in my beautiful island of Puerto Rico. We have many talented detailers and technicians, and they really need to hear this. So that's why one of the main reasons I want to share this space is to bring the community together, and establish this work of this ethics and this nice atmosphere where everybody grows, because they all say it that they want to come together, and they're all brothers, and they're stabbing their backs, and they're stealing the customers out of each other. So I'm glad to meet you, Marc, and I'm glad that you came all the way from Canada. I know it's a big sacrifice, and I really appreciate your time, the experience that you're transmitting to us while we are doing this training program with you and with X-COTE products. So I want to ask you, Marc, what is X-COTE?
Okay, so the biggest misconception in the industry is that X-COTE is another coating, like a ceramic coating. It's not at all a ceramic coating, and it is very different from a ceramic coating. A ceramic coating does not restore your paint. A ceramic coating protects your paint. X-COTE restores your paint. X-COTE does not protect your paint. It may give it some extra UV protection, but it's not a direct protection like a ceramic coating would. It doesn't do anything like that. It is a restoration. It is basically paint correction in a can. It is a very, very efficient way of correcting the paint. So there are two types of coatings in the world. And if we take, let's just say, automotive or marine, aviation, all of these coatings on that, the paint on any form of transportation on Earth, whether it's a train, a plane, a car, a bus, has what we call a two-component, or for short, 2K coating on it. What that means is that there is the resin. The resin is the actual clear coat, or, in the case of a paint, a colored paint. And there's the hardener or the activator. When they are mixed together, it's a chemical reaction. And that's why a coating on a vehicle or a plane or a bus generally lasts for decades. And, UV is always going to be the one that's going to break down a coating. It doesn't matter what kind of coating it is. That's what coatings fails. They have the most UV resistance. They're the strongest, the most scratch resistant. The technology is probably 60 to 70 years old now. Hasn't changed a lot. It's been improved and tweaked, but that is the technology, and that is the coating that you want to put on any form of transportation. The other type of coating is what we'd call a 1K, which means one component. And that means there is no hardener or activator added before use. And a good example of that would be an aerosol can or nail polish. So imagine if you took an aerosol can and you sprayed your car and you painted your car with it, and you did a really good job, and you used 15 spray cans and you did your car. Put it out in the sun for 6 months, a year, and see what it looks like. It's just going to fade to nothing. Or you did your car in nail polish. It wouldn't look very good for very long, because that form of coating doesn't hold up very good. So X-COTE is a two-component clear coat, exactly like the factory clear coat. It is no different from the factory clear coat. The end result is the exact same as the factory clear coat. How it differs is the application method. So X-COTE is formulated to be wiped on the vehicle instead of sprayed. And it's a very intricate, complicated system to develop. It's a very simple system to actually apply to a vehicle. Once you've been trained, once you get practice, it's no different than any product in our industry that pays good money. I refer to it as a specialty product. So cleaning cars buffing cars, there's nothing special about that. Everybody does it. Vacuuming a car, you know, everybody does it. But specialty products, PPF, PDR, wraps, PDF, liquid PDF, X-COTE, or a similar coating, these are specialty coatings. And if you want to make money in this industry, you have to be focused on these types of products and not cleaning cars. And everybody's got to start somewhere, but you got to graduate towards that. So back to X-COTE, it's exactly the same as the factory clear coat. It's just a different application method. So what we developed is a very time-efficient way to restore the car's paint literally to brand new. When we apply X-COTE to the existing clear coat, all you're doing is adding a layer onto that dull, swirled, damaged X-COTE and turning it into new. You still have your original clear coat, but you now have a thicker clear coat on it, which has all the benefits: more gloss, more depth, more UV protection, and you're working with more in terms of a future scratch, because now you can actually scratch the car deeper because you got more to work with. So there's lots of benefits, but really the biggest benefit is the time that you save and the results that you can get. And you know, one of the common questions I get is, so if I were to, I'm really good at what I do and I'm the best at correction, and if I corrected, you know, a panel, I don't think that X-COTE could look better than what I could, you know. There's nothing better than new. It doesn't get better. The very top correction on a paint is brand new, good quality brand new. That's what we deliver. So you can't get better. We're at the top. So in a nutshell, X-COTE is just a very, very efficient way of correcting the paint. It's less time and the results are incredible. And I've never had anyone come to a training session and say, that's not as good as you said it was. Never. We've been doing this for 22 years. We've been certifying people. We have over 400 certified installers worldwide, and I've never had one person come to a class and leave and say, that's not what I was promised. We have people that come and say, that's harder than I thought it was. Everything is. Everything that's worthwhile in this business, any specialty service in this business, whether it be PPF, try to go learn PPF.
It's a skill that you need to learn.
Oh, you need to learn it. And, you know, X-COTE, the learning curve is considerably shorter and faster to learn X-COTE, but there's no shortcut. You need to go to training, you need to learn the basics, and then you need to go practice. And in a very short time, you're going to get really good at it and start making some good money. But nothing comes free, nothing comes easy that's profitable. You want to learn PDR? Good luck. You ever tried PDR? Good luck, man. Yeah, you want to see a learning curve, PDR, PPF, wraps, they all have learning curves. X-COTE or any product like X-COTE, there is no shortcut. You got to show up, you got to get trained, and you got to go home and you got to practice. The learning curve is shorter than most of these, but it's there. There's no shortcut.
We're here in the middle of the training, and I'm enjoying the way you communicate the knowledge and the experience. That's what I need. That's why you're here, because we are, let's say, differentiated from the rest of our colleagues on the industry because we have a detailing school and we are a training center. So I'm glad that I have this experience being transmitted, so we can definitely bring this benefit and bring this system, which I know will be revolutionary for the automotive industry. And I'm glad for that. So I'm thrilled to finish the training and be able to invite our colleagues to also learn and make some profit out of the X-COTE system. So I'm curious, how did all of this begin? What's the origin, the genesis of the X-COTE?
Well,
system?
it kind of began by accident, so to speak. I got into the car business in 1986. And I worked very hard, and in 1989, I opened my first car dealership. And within a year, we were probably the top selling dealership in my city. It's a big city. We were a very high volume dealership. There was a body shop next door that used to do all of our spot repairs, our bumpers, and we were the biggest customer. Most of the cars in the shop were ours, because we did a very high volume. And one day I thought, why am I paying this guy? So I bought him out. So I bought the body shop. And 1990 was the time when clear coats had been around for a few years, but people weren't really using it so much. And people were spraying in enamel still, acrylic enamel. And clear coats were just starting to come around, and base clear was being, sort of, people were taking it on. They were very skeptical, and it was a very slow transition. And probably just out of naiveness, we started using this clear coat. And out of naiveness, I thought one day, I'm looking at this car, and it's just scratched all over the car, but there's no dents and there's no rust. And I'm just thinking, if we could just clear coat this, do we have to, go through all the trouble of dismantling it and sand it down and put it in the booth and bake it? And couldn't we just take this clear coat and wipe it on? It was a crazy idea. And I started playing around with it. So when everybody went home, I put the gloves and the mask on and I started playing with it. And what I saw, and I remember the first truck I did was a Chevy truck, and it was a red single stage enamel C10, and I did a fender on it. And if you looked at it today, you would say it's not the best quality installation, but I saw something much bigger than that. It blew my mind what it did to that paint. I was just like, my God. And I thought, if I could refine this and really make this coating look good. And I was like a dog on a bone. And I spent 10 years, 11 years developing that product quietly and putting it on my cars. And why it took so long is, once I actually understood, initially I thought this is going to be a really good way of reconditioning my cars, and I can sell them faster, I can sell them for more money. There's a saying in the car business, shiny cars sell faster. And they do. They sell faster and they sell for more money. So if you are on your game and you know what you're doing in the car business, you're very good at reconditioning. And you look at the dealerships that sell the most cars, they're the best at reconditioning. They're the best at a lot of things, but they're always the best at reconditioning. You go to that dealership, you open the door of that car, it's flawless, inside and out. Everything works. The tires are up mechanically, and it looks like a new car, even though it's 5 years old. They sell the most money. So I understood that, and that was the initial incentive for this. But as I worked with this, I started to see, wow, this is way bigger than just my cars. And so I started experimenting with this, and I would buy a car at the dealer auction, and I would buy something that was just beat on the paint on the outside. Mileage was okay, but thing just beat, a work truck. And I would buy this thing, and I would put this coating on it, and I would run it back the following week. This is a dealer auction. I would run it back the following week, and I would get like $3,000 more for it. And people would come up to me and they'd say, wow, you turned that around fast. Who does your paint work? And I say, nah, I did this, I clear coated it. Oh, what do you mean? So you just sprayed clear coat? No, I'm working on this thing. And they're like, that's interesting. Can you do, I have this, this Honda. Can you do that Honda? And I was like, well, yeah, maybe, Within a year or two, I had so much business that was coming in from other dealerships to do this that I was sacrificing my own cars. So we ended up opening up another workshop I built another workshop in the dealership just to do this. But there was always one thing in the back of my mind, the nagging thing that I couldn't leave alone. And that is that a traditional paint or clear coat, automotive paint or clear coat, when you respray a car, I don't care if it's a single stage or base clear, you have to sand the paint very thoroughly, or it will over time delaminate. It will peel off. We've all seen a bumper spot repair a year, 2 years later, and it starts peeling. That's because it wasn't properly sanded. Every type of automotive paint in the industry relies on a mechanical adhesion. What that means is it relies on that sanded surface. And when you sand the surface, what you are doing is you are increasing the surface area. So if you draw a straight line, and that's a surface area, and then you go like this, there's more surface area. So when you have more surface area, there's more to bite into it, and then all of these lines that go this way and that way, it falls into this, and that's what holds that coating on. And if you do it right, and you have the proper grit, it's a very reliable way. But where it fails is where people don't do that. Now, the dilemma was this. If I just put this clear coat on, okay, that I've developed, and I've tweaked it so I can actually apply it by hand, it's no different in the sense that if I put it on a smooth surface without sanding it, it's eventually going to come off. And believe it or not, as an auto dealer, I had a conscience. And we were in it for the long term. And what I didn't want was a customer coming back a year or two later and going, what's going on with my car? All this stuff's peeling off. That didn't work. So I was only doing it mostly in wholesale pieces. I wholesale a lot of cars. We would buy a lot of cars. We would buy in a package of 20 or 30 cars, and I would wholesale 6 or 8 that I didn't really want to keep. It's a Volvo. It's not my thing. I'd wholesale. I'd send it to the auction. But I wanted to really put this on the retail cars. So why it took 10 or 11 years to develop that is because I knew that I need to come up with some way for this coating to adhere to the surface permanently without sanding it. Because if I sand it, I mean, you might as well just put it in the booth and spray it. Like, you're not saving any time sanding down the whole car and doing that. So we developed the world's only true chemical adhesion. And what's really funny is, so we're going back into the 90s, early 90s. And I coined the term chemical adhesion in this industry. That term didn't exist before I came along. And now you see all of these knockoffs of X-COTE, and you look at their literature, it's all full of chemical adhesion. There is no chemical adhesion. We developed a chemical adhesion, and to try and, it's very complex to try to describe, but in layman's terms, if you had, this is your original coating, and this is your new coating.
You mean the clear coat, original
clear coat, yeah. This is your original clear coat, and this is your new coating. And you spray that on, it's these lines, okay, in here that hold it in. Without the lines, it comes off. But those lines that hold it in, okay? That's what it relies on. With X-COTE, what happens is X-COTE goes down deep into the paint and basically does this. It becomes part of that clear. So when you have any other coating other than X-COTE, I don't care if it's a clear coat, it's an automotive spray-on, a knockoff of clear coat.
Knockoff any one of those products that compare or try to imitate?
Not in terms of a chemical adhesion. And even a spray-on clear coat has some degree of chemical adhesion, but it's not enough for long term. So when X-COTE, when you recoat a surface with another automotive coating, okay, you have the original coat and you have the new coating on top. They're 2 separate coatings, and hopefully they don't come apart, but they are 2 coatings. When we put X-COTE over top of clear coat, it is 1 coating, because in layman's terms, it's not really correct technically, but in layman's terms, it melts into it and becomes part of it. It's an integral part of that coating. It's not 2 coatings. So for that reason, it can never be separated from the original coating other than mechanically. You can sand it off. Mechanically, you can remove it.
So it will never peel off. It will never.
We started back to the development of X-COTE in 2001. I had a product that I was very convinced that we had developed this chemical adhesion. And along that path, I hired a brilliant chemist and chemical engineer. And they had just sold their business to the US military. It was actually a patent that they had sold. They were a coating company. They developed a patent. They were some of the pioneers of fluorinated clear coats. That's a really complex system. But they were the pioneers of this fluorinated clear coats, and they sold the patent to the US Navy. Shitload of money, excuse my French, had a lot of money, and I caught them at the perfect time. They're from my city. I was referred by a friend. He said, you should talk to these guys, they're brilliant. They answered some really critical questions for me to make me move forward. And we successfully developed the first chemical adhesion, meaning when we put that X-COTE, which is just a clear coat, like the factory clear coat, when we put that on, it became an integral part of it. It's not another coating on top of it. And for that reason, it can never delaminate. And since 2001, so we're talking 25 years, we have never had a single vehicle delaminate worldwide ever, not one. And there is no coating company on planet Earth that can say that. And if you take PPG, they're the biggest in the automotive space for automotive paint. They have a great product, but their paints fail usually because of operator, the technician. He's done something wrong. It's very, very, very unlikely it was the paint. So we had a product that was literally fail-proof, because when it becomes a part of that coating, it can't be separated unless you mechanically take it off there. So in 2001, I wanted to test this in the real world. And we talked about setting into the laboratory testing. We did that, but laboratory testing just gives you a really good idea of what you got. It's not proof. It's just a good idea of where you're going to end up. It's a prediction of where you're going to end up in 5 years or 10 years. So because at that time, I owned two, I think maybe in the early 2000s was three, but two dealerships, and they were very high volume. So I had an unlimited amount of guinea pigs to test this on. So what I did is we would sell any car that was a candidate for this. We would put this clear coat on. At the time, it didn't even have a name. We would put the clear coat on. We would sell the car, and we would give the customer a free oil change and a mini detail, wash and a vacuum, and a wipe down, if they brought the car back every 3 months. And we did that for 3 years. So when I sold a car, I would sell a $10,000 car to somebody, and I'd say, by the way, free oil changes for 3 years and a detail every 3 months. But if you miss it, the deal's off. And everybody came back. And we logged all those cars. And about 3.5 years later, 2004, we had over 300 vehicles, almost 400 vehicles that we had and recorded. And I knew that we had something, not one failure. And I said, I am ready. You see, at that time, there was nothing like this. I was in no hurry. There was no competition. It was just, for me, I was busy selling cars. And we had a mechanical repair shop at that time. I had the body shop. I was busy. And it wasn't something that was urgent. And I wanted to make sure that if I launched a product like this, it was long-term. I don't do anything short-term. It's always long-term. And when we hit that 3.5 years, we came to a conclusion that this isn't coming off. And now we just had to refine the application process. At that point, we'd learned a lot, but we still had some work to do. So in 2004, we didn't even know what to call it. And it was about a 6-month dilemma. And I just couldn't think of a name that was really brandable, easy to remember, relevant. So I put a reward to all of my employees. I think it was $200. I said, whoever comes up with a name or something that leads me to a name, it's a $200 reward. The next day, my mechanic comes in from the mechanical shop. He's got 4 pages of names.
Oh, he's a creative one.
He's wanted the money. He's got 4 pages, and I'm just like, what? Like foolscap, like this. He's got 4 pages of names. And I'm just going, wow. So I start reading this. And I took something from here and something from the other page and then changed it a little bit. And we came out with X-COTE. I paid him $200. It reminds me, have you heard the story how the Nike logo, the swoosh?
Never heard of it.
Okay. The founder of Nike paid $20 for that logo. So it's become one of the most famous and profitable logos in history. He paid $20 for that. Anyways, I paid $200. I paid 10 times. So, so we had a name. By that time, we had really stirred up some interest in the industry. And I had a lot of people that were getting impatient. They were like, we gonna do this? And I'm like, when we're ready, not until we're ready. And in 2004, we had a list of people that want to get certified, and we immediately started training and certifying people. And that's how X-COTE started. And it's been a great ride. It's been a really great ride.
That story is inspiring, and it shows that this product didn't just came up out of nowhere. It took decades and real effort and real creativity, and one of my favorite words, authenticity. This is an authentic product. It's been tested. So that's what I stand for. That's why we're here today, because I did my research, and I have an idea, but I'm not an expert until I finish this training course and I continue to gain experience. But I would like to ask you, beside the chemical adhesion that is a property unique from this system, how can we compare X-COTE to similar products, or how similar products compare to X-COTE? There are many things on the market, and every day something new comes up, lots of products coming up.
Great question. And I get asked this question all the time. So we talked about chemical adhesion. We are the only coating company in the world that has a true 100% chemical adhesion. Meaning, if you did 0 prep on the vehicle and you put X-COTE on it, it's on there for life. It doesn't matter. You don't need to prep it. Okay, the result would be horrible, like anything else. It's like if you painted a car without prepping it, doesn't matter if the paint stays on or not, it would look horrible. So, but it is the only one that has a true chemical adhesion. So 5 years into X-COTE, we had our first copycat of X-COTE, which came from our city. And they immediately went to a kind of a franchise base, and you had to pay them a license fee up front just to be, privileged to use their product. And then you had to buy product from them, and then they sold you a territory. And that company is now full on franchise. Like, you have to spend, it's over $100K. So you have this franchise fee, and then you have to, all their branding, you have to do all their branding, and you'll be in it for over $100K. I'm not going to talk bad about their company or any of these other companies, because we all started somewhere. Maybe maybe these companies will come around to be a good company. I don't know. So I'm not going to talk bad about them, but I know where I stand. So this company came along, and they started with more of a franchise model, and then another one came, and then another one came. Some of these companies sell a 2-component like we do. It's a clear coat with a hardener or an activator. Hardener and activator are really the same. They do the same thing. And some of them are a 2-component like that, and some are a 1-component. So a 1-component paint, we talked about the longevity of a 1-component paint. It's not very long. And there's a few of these products that come in now, and it's really easy to tell the difference between a 1-component and a 2-component. Simply, is there a hardener or an activator that gets mixed in before applying? If the answer is yes, it's a 2-component, and it should last longer than the 1-component. If it's a 1-component, that means it doesn't have a hardener. Does it have a place in the industry? Perhaps. Maybe on a car dealership lot where the dealership doesn't have a conscience and just wants to get that car looking as good as it can. And you know what? I'm not going to hack on that. There's a place for that. There are dealers that will pay you money for that. And if that's where you want to be in the industry, fill your boots.
What caught my attention, and I've noticed from the small experience that I'm gaining till today, is that there's no risk of ruining the vehicle while installing, while some similar products have come to our attention, since we are very well positioned in the industry, that they have issues, products failing and ruining vehicles, taking this very big making a very big disadvantage to the installer. And we like what with experience till today, because we know that we are not on the risk of having to pay to fix vehicles. Mm-hmm. So I've heard that other products that try to compare to X-COTE have a real risk of damaging vehicles, which is a big liability, and detailers, and we're here into making money and refinishing, like companies like body shops, they don't want to lose money. So I think this is a big important highlight of what you developed.
What's interesting is, in the industry, when you develop something new like this, not everybody's a fan. In fact, most people are reluctant to. We're creatures of habit, and we like doing what we're doing. When we get good at it, we like doing that even more. And we transitioning and learning something new. There are people who gravitate towards that. Most people don't. And when something new comes in, we're hesitant about that. And there are people who aren't fans of this type of coating, these hand-applied clears. But what I find really interesting, like I said, I don't really get involved in these group chats and chime in, but nobody ever says, I bought X-COTE and it wasn't what they said it was. Not once, not ever. I've actually never heard somebody say, I bought X-COTE and it was crap. Maybe somebody out there, I've never read it myself. I see a lot of hate of these products that people have spent money and they're out money. We have always been 100% honest with people in terms of what we talked about before. Anything worth doing, you're going to have to spend time and learn how to do it and get good at it. Nothing that is worthwhile comes easy, and that includes a hand-applied clear coat. And I think part of why you see this hate against that type of product is because these companies came into this market unprepared. They came up with something that said, hey, this works, it makes the car shiny, let's hit it. Let's produce it, let's put it out, let's hire a marketing team, let's do this, let's do that. We'll figure it out as we go along. I figured it out first. And like I say, at the time, I was not in a rush. I was very busy with doing what I got to doing, and it was always a side passion until it became what it was. So I think a lot of these companies have come to market unprepared. And, I have a friend in the industry, and he is a manufacturer of products, car care products. And he's come out with, it's a single component, clear coat like this. And I did a post and I phoned him and I said, hey, I see you got a product and we get along well. And I said, listen, if you ever want some guidance, yours is a 1K, mine is a 2K. We're not really going to compete against each other. So I'd love to help you out, in terms of if you ever need any guidance in that, like I've been doing this longer than you've been in business. And anytime, phone me if you want some guidance on anything, some advice on anything. Because the way I saw it is, if he succeeds with his company, we're in a blue ocean market. The term blue ocean market means there's far more buyers than sellers. It's, you look at the ceramic market, it's saturated. There's far more sellers than buyers. So it's a saturated market. It's the complete opposite with the hand-applied clear coats. There's a handful. We're in a blue ocean market. The best thing that could happen to me is if 3 or 4 companies came along and did it right, and did it good, and were honest, and sold a good product, and cared more about the installers than the profit. If 3 or 4 people came along and did that, it would be the best thing that ever happened for X-COTE. Elon Musk, early on, he opened up a lot of his patents. And you think, why would he do that? He developed, everything on that car was patented. Everything in that whole, development was patented. Why would he do that? Because he was smart enough to know that it takes an industry to sway the consumer. You can't do it on your own. It's just too hard. He would never convince people to buy an electric car at mass unless the other manufacturers were doing it. What happened was the other manufacturers all sat back and they were actually shorting his stock. They were all betting against him. They were like, okay, well, I'm glad you made all that money. Kiss it goodbye, because we're just going to sit here and watch you go broke. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, this guy's selling cars. And then they all came on board and said, wow, we better catch up. And he released these patents because he knew that they had to get to a certain level before it was accepted by the public. Now there's electric cars everywhere. Go back 15 years, try and convince somebody to buy an electric car, really hard. So, if we had 3 or 4 companies in this industry doing it right and being honest and not just taking people's money and just not lying about the attributes of what it is and what it does. All these other companies, they come up with all these names and make it sound scientific and wonderful and unique. They're all clear coats, man. They're all just clear coats, and it's just, if it's formulated right and you got the right training, the right techniques, you can do wonders with it. But all those things have to come together. But if we had 3 or 4 companies that would do it right, we'd blow this industry up. And X-COTE would always be the WD-40 of lubricants. It would always be the Kleenex of tissues. When you say, pass me a Kleenex, you don't say, oh, I only have this other one. I don't have a Kleenex brand, but would you like this? No, you just pass them the tissue. It's a Kleenex. And X-COTE has kind of been, that. All the time, people, I see, I get dealerships that phone me in my city. And I'll get a call from the manager and they'll say, listen, I got a car that, was X-COTE, the customer's back and it's starting to peel off and can you fix this? How do we fix this? And my first question is where was this done? What X-COTE center? Oh no, the guy came to the dealership and did it on the dealership lot. And I'm like, that's not X-COTE. X-COTE is only done in a center by certified trained professionals in a center, an X-COTE center. And he says, well, the guy called it X-COTE. I said, well, yeah. I said, here's the thing is, you might call a spray lubricant WD-40. It doesn't matter what brand's on there. You call a tissue a Kleenex, and we were the first in the space by a long shot. We were the biggest in the industry. We are the biggest in the industry. So the process has become known as X-COTE. And it's getting to the point now where people kind of see the difference, but the actual type of coating is referred to it commonly as X-COTE.
Another difference that we can highlight that X-COTE is available for different markets. Like you've mentioned, body shop owners can take advantage of this product.
Yeah. So we do have body shop owners as installers, and where it finds a place in a body shop is a lot of insurance claims will come in, and or just private jobs come in, and the panel is damaged, but the damage has not gone beyond the clear coat, so it hasn't penetrated down to the primer. You can fix that, like that panel, you can fix very fast and very efficiently, 100%, without having to paint that for a very, very low cost. The same results. Materials, labor, it's a win as long as it hasn't penetrated down to the primer coat. So there's some jobs that will qualify for that, and some that won't. But where it comes into play a lot is, a car will come in, and there's an insurance claim for the fender and the bumper. So they paint the bumper and the fender, and they upsell them and say, listen, we can clear coat the rest of your vehicle for X amount of dollars, because we're going to paint this bumper, we're going to paint your fender, but your car is 7 years old. It's going to look brand new compared to the next for a very small amount of money. We can clear coat the rest of it, and you get your whole car back brand new, not just the bumper and the fender.
What we experience as detailers, as we have customers that come out of the body shop because body shop are dedicated to paint cars.
Correct.
When it comes to polishing systems, they don't have the
expertise.
The expertise or the labor. Every day the labor is higher and higher.
It's labor
costs.
intensive. It's labor intensive. And
so I'm sorry, we have this customer that come from the body shop to the detailers because they know we can take care of the rest of the car to make it look even with the fresh paint. So if we can bring this tool to the body shop owners so they can deliver a product with a quality finish instead of doing multiple steps of polishing, which drives them crazy. They don't want to do it because it interferes with their business. So now body shop owners have a tool where they can deliver a proper
package.
end product.
And when I owned that body shop, I would say the biggest complaint I got from customers they would come in and they would say, well, it doesn't match. And I would open the door and show them the door jamb and say, this is your paint without UV damage and scratches and wear and tear. And it matches exactly the same as the fender that we painted. The rest of your car doesn't match because it's worn and this is new. I said, that's the difference in it. And that was the biggest complaint. And some body shops will go through the trouble of polishing the rest of the car if they get paid a good amount of money for that claim. That's very seldom, but some will do that because that is always, not that you didn't match the paint, it doesn't match the sheen. So this is a really, really effective tool to do the rest of the car. And then the whole car is uniform and seamless. And then the other part that works for a body shop is, and we actually have body shops at our corporate shop in Vancouver. We have several body shops in the area that send us the vehicles for denibbing. So when you spray a vehicle, you get dust nibs. And you know what? The better shops get less, but they all get dust nibs. And it's a very time-consuming thing for them to polish out those dust nibs. And they're not good at it. It's not their expertise. And if it is a very valuable car and they got good paid for the claim, they will send it to us and they'll just have us do the denibbing. Or body shops will use that if they have this X-COTE system. All they will do is sand down that nib buff back the sand marks, and X-coat the panel, and it is miles quicker than doing a proper 3-step. And as we know, most body shops aren't that great at the polishing game. The term 3-step, most of them don't even know what that means. So they whack it with a rotary,
Yeah.
they wipe it down, and away it goes.
I will develop a program for these body shops and make a presentation just for them and teach them how they can make more profit instead of losing money trying to polish the whole vehicle.
It's a tool.
So I know you're gonna help me out with this, so we can present this in a specific way to body shop owners, the detailers. We have this market where perfectionists come to us trying to have their cars, looking at their prime. So that's where it caught my attention, because we're always looking for the best product, for the latest technologies. And I know this exists from a long time ago, but now it is resurging, onto the surface, because the coatings, the ceramics, and all of these developments on the refinishing on the automotive surfaces, it's going crazy. Now it's resurfacing, and that's where I encounter X-COTE. So detailers are gonna definitely have a tool. Body shops are gonna have a tool. You mentioned wholesalers. These guys go buy the cars on these auctions, right? You mentioned auctions, so they're gonna get their attention onto the X-COTE system as well. And what other industries beside body shop, detailers, wholesalers, who can take advantage of the X-COTE system?
Well, I mean, there is a lot of uses for X-COTE. We are mostly focused on automotive, but we have a whole sector of people that are doing marine work. And as we know, gel coat is an extremely difficult material to work with. It has very little UV resistance, and it's extremely laborious when you get a boat that's oxidized to bring that boat back, and then the customer comes back 8 months later and goes, it's exactly the same. Well, yeah, that's what gel coat does. So with X-COTE, you can remove the oxidation completely and coat it, and you will get an actual better gloss and shine when that boat was new, because now you have not a single stage paint, you have in a sense, a base clear paint. Now that clear coat on top has far better UV blockers and hals and everything that blocks those UV rays, those damaging rays in it, than the gel coat on it. Gel coat is not very resistant to UV. A clear coat on a car is far more resistant. So when we put that on top of that gel coat, we get all the benefits of a base coat, clear coat in a car. So there's definitely a market there, and we have, our strongest market is automotive, but we have a lot of guys that do boats.
So you're telling me these guys come to my shop to buy this polishing system for a 60, 70, 80 foot boat, and they're spending thousands of dollars in materials and spend days trying to
weeks,
maybe weeks, right? So what you're telling me is that the marine industry can definitely benefit from this, and instead of spending all of those man hours and products where the gel coat is definitely coming back to fading, with X-COTE, we can definitely
you can extend the life of that happening. And just to be transparent, not every boat is a candidate for X-COTE. Gel coat is a very difficult material. They use gel coat because it's very cost efficient. And if you take a boat, the amount of materials you have to put on that boat, it's a large surface and it's a very thick coating. So it's a very cheap type of coating, and that's why they use gel coat. And it's very flexible too, because those boats, they flex a lot. So it's very flexible. material. But the problem with gel coat is when it starts to oxidize, it becomes very porous. And over time, that gel coat breaks down, and that oxidation goes all the way through, eventually completely through the gel coat. So you can remove, let's say we take a boat that's 15 or 20 years old and it's really, really oxidized. If you can bring that boat back to a decent shine, you could, in theory, X-coat that and get a great result, incredible result. But the reality is this: you've taken off the majority of the oxidation off the surface, but there is still oxidation below. And the way that oxidation works, it's very similar to skin cancer. So when the UV rays hit your skin, it creates free radicals. Free radicals mutate the cell, and the cells start mutating it, and that's what cancer is. It's a very similar process. What happens is the UV rays in that coating create the same free radicals, and the free radicals break down that structure between the hardener and the resin. Okay, that isocyanate and resin that lock together, that make that strong coating. And a gel coat is a two component, just like an automotive. It's just a different type. So what happens is those free radicals start breaking those connections between the isocyanate and that. And you can remove most of it on the surface, but you've still got some underneath that. It's like cancer. It's still going to grow, and eventually that's going to fail, underneath there. So in that situation, it would probably buy the owner of that boat some time in terms of whether, he had to repaint it this year or in a couple or 3 years. It's going to buy him some time. But realistically, if the boat is very, very oxidized, it's probably going to be you're just extending the life of that. You're not completely solving.
So we're talking about an extremely damaged surface, but
but we get your average boat that you could bring it in and do a one-step on it, make it look fantastic. Yeah, you're gonna get some really, really good benefit out of that.
I think we should pause by now.
Sure.
And check what's going on the prepping of the vehicles that we're
it's 324.
that we're
we can
getting done today. So we can continue and write some notes. But I think the content that we have for today is very nice. So I think we're good. Okay, we continue. Yeah, and dale, ¿tú sabes apagar eso?